Hi, my name is Jimy Martinez, and I've been here at Neighborhood Ministries since 2004. I was born in 1981, and then other things started arising at that time, like violence due to drugs and cartels and more political stuff, right? And so the places that I come, we've always been in submerged in those type of tensions, right? Which is a big factor in why people migrate from our countries and make the trip up north. And so that was kind of like my background. I was born in a Christian home. My dad was a pastor. So from early on, I had a connection with God and a relationship with God. But as I grew older, there was something about that growing up in the church that God was kind of grabbing my attention, right? And it was the sense that the church was more than about just itself, but it was about reaching out to the margins, to the most needy in our society, right? And so for a time, I actually left the church, but not because I was angry at God, but because I had the desire for the church to be much more. And then, kind of God led me back to church because you can't follow God without a community. You can't do it on your own, right? And so He brought me back to church, but it was my desire to kind of go back to that type of church that was reaching out. And actually, my dad started working for Compassion International, and I also applied there, so I got the opportunity to work for them, and through that it was like this glimpse, right, of what the church could be. They were reaching out to the children that lived in extreme poverty, and these were places that the church wasn't going after. And for me, that was kind of like the start of what God was kind of pulling me towards. But then I came to the United States, and that was my first encounter with Neighborhood Ministries. Actually, Erica, my wife, she was a Head Start teacher here at Neighborhood Ministries, and I started volunteering here. And this is where I heard for the first time a message like God's heart for the poor. And I started having these experiences of what God was doing here. I think for me, has been a really powerful thing to see that this has become a process in the healing of our families. We always talk about stories as being part of the healing process, right? And so for me, my understanding of healing, I always say that is whenever you're able to share your story without that story having to crush you anymore, right? Like God is beginning to use your story, right, to impact others. And that's what I've seen in our family. Every time they share their story, is that they actually there's a connection between them and their faith, and how they feel like God is actually using them to make change in our city, to change the narrative that we as immigrants are just here to take, right? To take, no, but no, like we are here to be a blessing. We are a blessing in this place. And these families are sharing that story, that perspective of how they are a blessing in our cities, in our country, in this nation.